my thing that I have is some stores have opened up that should not be open in the first place, that they're just trying to get in and sell as much as they can before the government shuts them down. So those are the people that I'm like, again, if you're just checking on people, they wouldn't have even been there in the first place. But those are the people that I have an issue with because, again, they're not testing and going through the steps that we've gone through. So those are the people that I'm like, no, you either need to jump on board and do the stuff that the government said we're supposed to do, or you don't get to operate a business. So those are businesses that aren't legit businesses to begin with. So that's something that's almost borderline to me, not black market, but again, they're doing things they're not even supposed to be doing.
Lawyers aren't magicians, but understanding the law can feel like magic. Welcome to Hold My Briefcase, the legal lowdown for everyday people. Houston-based attorney Colby Lewis takes you behind the curtain, breaking down legal challenges into real stories and practical insights you can use. No tricks, no jargon. It's your guide to navigating life's legal challenges with clarity and confidence. Let's dive in.
Hi, welcome to Hold My Briefcase. This is Colby, and today we are talking with my good friend Jackie, who is the owner of a very lovely shop, and we're here to talk about what Texas legislature is discussing in this special session right now. As you know, the Texas legislature has been called back to a special session. It started on July 21st, and they're tackling the complex issue of THC product regulation after Governor Abbott vetoed Senate Bill number 3, which would ban virtually all consumable products containing THC. And what it is there is in 2019, there was an opening of the THC market that allowed for different types of THC. And this is where it gets a little complicated, Jackie. First off, can you introduce yourself?
I'm Jackie. Me and my husband own Mellow Monkey Smoke Shop in San Antonio, Texas, and we actually just hit our 10-year mark this month.
Fantastic. So you're the owner of a shop. You've been there for 10 years in San Antonio, Texas, not really the very liberal area of town of Texas compared to, say other places. When you started, the THC retail industry was completely different, right?
Right. Yeah. There was absolutely no THC. There was no CBD. When you came in, it was literally for all your accessories. So you'd come in and either get your pipe or grinder or tray or papers, whatever it was that you would have needed. And now it's just completely blown up into, basically a pharmacy.
Yeah. And some background here, some states have legalized marijuana. But when they say marijuana, they're talking about THC, but there's different types of THC, right?
Yes.
And I've heard these terms being thrown around, a Delta 9 THC, a Delta 8 THC, a Delta 10 THC, THCA, CBD, and CBG. Kind of the spectrum that we're dealing with.
There is a lot of different cannabinoids that are in the plant. And there's even a Delta 6, a Delta 11, THCP, HHC. There's all kinds of stuff. So basically, in a nutshell, when you extract certain ones and you mix them together with certain ones, you're going to get different reactions or different effects. So that's why you'll see some products that have 3 different, cannabinoids. There's 3 different cannabinoids here. There's 2 over here. There's 1 over here. And there's just different percentage of each of those cannabinoids. So depending on when somebody takes something, it's not going to feel the same as if you took something. Me and you need a different dose. We need a different percentage of something, depending on what effect you want to get.
Yeah. But the Delta 9 is the one that's quote unquote illegal in Texas, right?
Right. So they said we couldn't have more than the 3% of Delta 9 when they made that law. They didn't realize there were all these other cannabinoids that we basically tapped into. So they didn't specify anything about anything else. They just said no Delta 9, or if you do, it has to be under 3%.
Yeah. So when in Texas, when the legislature legalized hemp in 2019 in House Bill 1325, what you're talking about is that they allowed for hemp production as long as it didn't have more than 0.3% of Delta 9 THC. But that allowed for other hemp that contained other cannabinoids. I never can pronounce that.
Cannabinoids, yes.
And those are actually the psychoactive things that actually make you feel different things, but they're in different quantities and different varieties depending on which delta or variant you're doing. Is that correct?
Right. Like, let's say if you look at Delta 8, that was the first thing that they kind of did that snowballed everything. Delta 8's more just, I guess you'd say the step one. So like a newbie lightweight person, it's just more of a body thing. So you're not going to have a huge effect depending on the person's tolerancy. Because I'll have a lot of people that would take Delta 8 and they're like, nothing, did nothing. Versus if it's a newbie or a lightweight, that's all they need. They don't need anything stronger.
Yeah, and just some background. The cannabinoids are found in the cannabis sativa plant, and they interact with the body's endocannabinoid system. I can't read that. And they influence effects such as mood, pain, appetite. And the first one, Delta 8, which we were talking about, its isomer is similar to Delta 9, but it has what is, I'm told by the fancy chemists, is a double bond in a different position. And because of that, they say that the high is less intense than Delta 9.
Right.
But it can still relieve pain, anxiety, nausea. And so it's a little bit of a different high, a little bit of a different feeling, but your customers can still get some relief, anxiety, and pain from it. Is that correct?
Yeah, that one, like you said, would be the less intense one. So that's why when these things first started coming out, if I had somebody that's never taken an edible, for example, I wouldn't give them something stronger. I usually started them with like a Delta 8 and then maybe tell them even to portion that depending on if they've never taken one or if they're like, my pain is at a 10 or I'm just anxious. So it just depends on the person.
And just going through, Delta 10 is the same kind of system. It's, a little bit different. It has a different effect. The users report milder, more energizing psychoactive effects compared to Delta 9. But again, it's milder. It's different. The Delta 9 is the primary one that people think of when they're smoking pot or they hear about that, right?
Yeah.
And then this other one I think is really interesting is THCA, which is what's called a precursor. Can you explain that?
So I basically explain it to my customers in a nutshell. It is the legal twin sister because it's basically like a molecule difference. I think of it when you're putting something in the oven for 30 minutes. I took it out to 29. Once you light it, it reaches its full potential and it is now legal.
Yeah, and the science says because when the THCA is heated, it undergoes what's called a decarboxylation, thereby losing the carboxyl group and converting it to the psychoactive THC. Interesting chemistry here that we're dealing with, right?
Yeah. So that's why when somebody's like, well, what does this one do? What does this one do? What does this one do? All of them will do mildly different things. But like I said, when you have different pens that they have different mixtures, the different combos are what is really going to make the difference for some people, for a lot of people.
Do you find that people that are regular habitual users of the black market, THC or Delta 9, are switching over to the legal products?
Well, yeah, because they feel safer walking in knowing that at least we carry quality stuff. Our stuff has been tested and checked, and I'm not just selling anything that who knows what's in it.
Yeah, I mean, because when you're dealing with buying black market products, what you're dealing with is basically whatever the person who's selling it to you says it is, right?
Right. And even you don't know what it is. I'm sure they don't even know what it is. Whoever is distributing it knows, but if they decide to put something else in there, they're not going to tell anybody.
Yeah. And, there's no regulations in people that are growing black market marijuana to not throw some Roundup on there or chemicals in order to boost their productivity or production, right?
Yeah, right now, a lot of it's being laced with fentanyl because they want to make it better, but that's killing people.
It's just ridiculous.
Yeah.
And the products were being sold was only started being sold in 2019. How did your business transform in the 10 years?
I mean, like I said, Delta 8 is what snowballed it. And when that first came out, my customers were like, oh, it's CBD. And I'm like, no, this is what you thought it was when CBD first came out. This is your actual, the mellow, this is what you were looking for. But again, most of my customers have a higher tolerancy. So Delta 8 barely did anything for them, if it even did anything for them. Like I said, unless you were a new person to this was a good stepping stone for a lot of people. And then everybody's tolerancies are getting higher. So that's when these companies started, outdoing each other. And what everybody wants today, nobody wants tomorrow because, oh, this is more effective. Oh, now this is more effective. Now I want this one. I don't want this one anymore. So these companies are always making stronger things, but it's based on the market. If I have customers that they've taken every single edible that I have and they say, I've taken 10 of these and it doesn't work. So they need something stronger now.
And that stronger comes from not only the dosage, but the type of cannabinoid, right?
Yeah. So now there's THCP, which is stronger than A. It just costs more to manufacture. That's why you might not see it completely by itself. Or if you do, it's going to be like maybe a small dose, but it'll be more expensive. Let's say if you find a pen, for example, and it says THCP, but it's 3 grams for $20. I have a pen that it's a half gram for $40. So obviously that's not the same quality. This one might be mostly Delta 8 with a little bit of the THCP, whereas this one is a true THCP. So when you're doing the true THCP, you only need a little bit of it versus the other thing that has mostly Delta 8 with a little bit of the THCP, you're going to need a lot more of it because it's not all THCP.
And you said that Delta 8 was, it opened it up. And I hate to use this trigger word, gateway, because when I was younger, Nancy Reagan, don't do drugs, dare to stay off drugs. And they basically equated all drugs the same.
Yeah.
Every single one. If you were smoking crack, if you were doing cocaine, you were on par with marijuana. And in the days, there were always these myths and rumors about people getting arrested because they had some sort of resin on a pipe or some seeds in an ashtray. But now and let me read some of these statistics. In 2025, our annual sales revenue of $5.5 billion, total economic activity of $10.2 billion, the jobs created were 53,382, annual wages $2.1 billion, state tax revenue of $267.7 million, number of retail locations, 8,000 to 8,500. I think that number is really low, by the way. And number of businesses over 8,500. So this has created a whole industry.
Right.
This gateway, which opened up to a whole new industry.
Right. See, and I mean, we can call it a gateway, but it was for the better because most of my customers, I want to say at least a good 90% of my customers use something as medicine. They've already done the prescriptions. They've gone to the doctor multiple times. It's not working. This works for them. So that's why when we were threatened with the ban, I had people that were in here having a breakdown and just crying, losing it because they're like, I don't want to go back on Xanax. I don't want to go back on this. I don't want to do this anymore because the way it made them feel either turned them into a zombie, it caused depression, it caused other things to happen. Whereas this one takes away your pain and you don't feel like you're on a prescription.
Yeah, because people use this drug in order to medicate.
Right.
And they transfer stress medications. I've heard of Xanax being traded. I think you just said that. So there's an influx of people who are using this in substitution for pharmaceutical meds.
Right. And that's why we feel like they don't want it to be on the market because now you can walk in and I'm basically your personal pharmacist because I'll say, okay, what did we try last time? That didn't work. It made you too sleepy. Okay, let's try this one this time. Okay, now let's try this one this time. This one works. We're going to stick with that. So it just depends on each person. There's a lot of people that have come in. I've even had customers that a doctor specifically recommended them to come to my store. And they said, listen, we've tried everything else. Go see what she has.
Yeah, there's no doubt that some of the effects of marijuana have medical applications. For example, people who are on chemotherapy really can have a positive impact from the munchies, for example. And people that need to drink, they've been using it for cottonmouth, try to get people to drink more. But, with the numbers that are being put up, I mean, this is a lot of money. This wasn't a market that is just the people that were smoking weed before, the grass people, the people that were smoking weed when you were just a head shop and just selling accessories.
Right.
The group has expanded, right?
Right. Well, most definitely, because I have a lot of customers that have never tried it before in their life, and they feel comfortable coming in here into an actual store, not just any Joe Schmo off the street. But also the other thing is I know what I carry. I know what's in it. I know what might work better for some people, more or less. So if I can narrow down to, what, I think this mixture will work better for you since you said you want it for sleep. This one will work better because you said you're draining, you need energy. So I've actually helped a lot of people that have never tried it, that they feel safe walking in, and they're more comfortable, especially talking to a one-on-one person versus walking in, picking something, and let's hope it works.
Do you deal with a lot of first-time customers?
Oh, yeah.
What's the number one question you're asked by the first-time customer?
Oh, God. It's a series of questions, because if I'm a new person, I've never done any of this. It's a lot. It's a lot to take in, because they're like, okay, what does all this do? Because I have a wall.
Well, what would get them in there to start with, just to get to the wall? Do they hear about it? What is curiosity?
They hear either from word of mouth from somebody that they've known personally that's tried it. And then the other thing is, again, if they're in pain, for example, they've tried all these different things. And then they'll have somebody that'll recommend them and say, you know what, why don't you go to the smoke shop and see if they have something for pain specifically. So they'll wander in and say, okay, I have this problem.
Yeah. And the people that come in, questions they ask you, what are your answers for their questions?
I mean, it's a case by case scenario, really, because I'll have people that'll come in that, let's say they're in pain. So I'm like, okay, well, my follow-up question is, have you ever tried this? And if you have, what was it? What was the dose? How often did you take it? If they've never tried it, I'm like, okay, well, you know what? Let me start you with maybe CBD first, because a lot of customers who've never tried it don't want to just jump in and they have a bad reaction or it's too much for them. And then they're just in that, okay, never going to try this again. So I'll start them baby step and say, okay, let's do CBD or CBG, and then let's portion it, worker it. And then if that doesn't work, okay, now I'll put you on this wall where it's a little bit of both. And then I'll work you up again if you feel like you need something stronger. So I don't just throw people in the deep end and say, here, let's see what this does.
And do you notice that the age is running older, running younger?
My clientele is actually more realistically like 30s and up. I don't have that many like 21 to 20 somethings that come in. I mean, I do, but majority of people, I feel like our clientele is older because, again, pain, stress, anxiety, like you said, different things like fibromyalgia, chemo treatments, like MS, they need it for medicine. So this isn't just something recreational that they're like, oh, cool, let me try it. This is something they need to get through their daily routine, just to get up out of bed, just to get to the couch, just to do dishes. It's, for some people, what they have might be incapacitating. So they need something to help take their pain from, let's say, a 10 to 2, 3, 4. So at least they can actually get up and go do dishes.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of talk about the medical benefits, but, let's not deny the fact that people are doing this for recreational benefits too, right?
Right.
And it's not illegal for them to use it for recreational benefits. There's no, unlike THC 9, right, Delta 9, which is illegal, but it's legal for medical purposes and medical purposes only. Such a restriction is not on the rest of them. Is that correct?
Right.
So it's okay for people to come in and enjoy it recreationally like they would a beer.
Right. Yeah, it's the same thing. You're not going to make, certain mistakes that you would when you have a beer.
Yeah, I've heard that, when some people get stoned, they become carpenters. When other people get drunk, they want to get in fights.
Right. We all of a sudden become an engineer when you smoke something. You might come up with the best new device. You might forget it in the morning. Where I know a lot of people, especially my older clientele, that they're like, if I didn't have anything, give me this, this, and this. I'll make it happen. I'll make it work.
And do you have a lot of older clientele that have been, habitual, that have been using, I don't want you to name anybody, but, been using for a while and, they're coming into the fold
right?
Because of this.
Right. Yeah. I'll have, like I said, a lot of especially when we're getting older, things start falling apart. So again, some of the medicines that we get prescribed don't work or work as well. So then they're coming in and looking again for mostly pain, stress, anxiety is majority of what everybody has. So they're definitely, once we figure out what it is that works better for them, they're definitely coming in for their weekly refill, basically.
Yeah. And if you were to think about it in a certain sense, the recreational is not any worse than any other recreational thing we do. For example, drinking. There are other drugs out there. And I know you're not a doctor, but can you give, your own opinion on the benefits of smoking your product versus going to a bar and drinking?
Right. I mean, what you're smoking is basically literally medicine. And when you're drinking, it is damaging liver. It's making you make impaired judgment decisions. And when you smoke, you typically get a little more lazier and you don't want to fight people. You're more stationary, you're relaxed. You're not going to start fights. Like you said, if you go into a bar, that triggers different reactions for everybody. So you're going to get the aggressive person, you're going to get the had way too much person. So medical, benefits, like we said, if they drink, that's going to start damaging stuff in your body, especially when you're drinking way too much for too many years versus if you smoke, this might be curing anything you might be eventually prone to contracting.
So that's pretty good background on, the area of, what we're dealing with. And, your business, being in business for 10 years, when this new Senate Bill 3 came up, were you worried?
I wasn't not worried, but I was panicking slightly. I know technically this stuff is always at risk of being banned because you have certain people that are just completely against it. Doesn't matter.
What do you think?
I don't know. I think like what you said, when we go back to the generation of, no, it's bad, it's drugs, it's bad, it's drugs. And I'm like, you're comparing smoking to, like you said, somebody who does crack. That's not the same thing. You cannot get hooked on this stuff. You are not going to harm anybody else on this stuff. You're not even harming yourself when you're using this stuff. So the fact that some people are so completely against it is just crazy to me.
And in fact, let's talk about people against it. This was a very rare and unexpected thing. Senate Bill 3 would have, it was Lieutenant Governor's Dan Patrick's priority legislation. A big deal. It was carried by Senator Charles Perry. And what it would have done is ban all consumable hemp products containing any detectable amount of THC. Now, whether or not that would ban all of them, that's another question. Mm-hmm. Only CBD, only CBG, and fines, and still leave the exceptions for medical use. Basically would have put you out of business, or at least severely curtailed the business you have, right?
I mean, for us, that's why I was saying I wasn't too worried, because for us, it's just a corner of our store. So I reminded my husband, it's basically going to go back to the way it was before, which is everybody needs to come and get the accessories now. So now you're going back into getting glass, papers, grinders, trays, whatever accessories you need. Compared to now, you can walk in. You don't need any of that stuff because you can walk in and get a pen or a pre-roll and go about your day. So I don't know if it would have necessarily balanced for us, but I know that money that we're spending in THC products would have just gone back into investing in, again, all the accessory pieces for it.
Yeah. What you're saying, if I'm hearing you correctly, is that if this bill would have passed, that the people that are currently your customers, even the people that were brought newly into the market, would have no place to go, and they would transfer back, or in some cases for the first time, to the black market, where people are, meeting dealers. The old days of meeting a dealer. Hey, man, a dealer?
Yeah, and I had a lot of customers that were like, I'm not going to do that, though. Like, where do I even find that person?
There's a 55-year-old trying to ask.
No, exactly.
Yeah,
All the customers are like,
hey, kid, you got a hook.
Right.
It's like the opposite of when they would ask us to buy beer,
Yeah. But yeah, a lot of my customers that are like, I guess I'm just out. Like, I need to go back to the doctor and go back through again all the medicines that we've tried and maybe see if there's something new that came out, because they're like, I'm not going to go find a dealer.
And, let's be fair here. Let's talk about Lieutenant Governor Patrick's position. I want to give you his position. I want you to address it. He claims that retailers have exploited agricultural laws to sell life-threatening, unregulated forms of THC. Let's take that piece by piece. Exploited agricultural laws. It's kind of like, I always love it when people say they exploited the law. Not that you violated the law. Does that mean people that, are, trying to get the least amount of taxes are exploiting the tax code?
Some of the things he says, I don't know where it comes from, because he either knows the truth and he's completely lying about a lot of things, or he doesn't know anything that he's talking about and he's just making stuff up. I can't really tell what some of the things he says, because one of the things he said was, it's killing people. And I'm like, no, it doesn't. It has not killed anybody. So either you group it.
And I'll be frank with you, I've never heard of anybody dying from marijuana overdose, but I've heard of people going to sleep for a really long time.
Right.
And, because, and I'll tell you the famous story, or maybe not that famous, there's this New York Times editor, or the New York Times writer, and she's really famous. And, she went to one of these states where they had legalized marijuana, and they gave her a bunch of brownies, and they said, take a bite.
Right.
And then wait.
Right.
Classic, right? And it's one of these space cake things. It's probably like 1,000 milligrams. And they were trying to be nice to her and give her the best.
Right.
And so she goes back to her hotel room. She drinks a glass of wine and she has some brownie. Waits 15 minutes. Can't feel anything. Has a little more brownie.
Oh, no.
Another 15 minutes. Still can't feel anything. Has a little more brownie.
Right.
By an hour in, she starts to feel it, and then it starts to pull her down. And then she can't move for 4 hours, 5 hours. And she's just laying on her bed because she's taken so much of the drug. It's just completely wiped her out. She literally will make it to you where you can't move. And that was considered an overdose. That terrifying time that she went through, that was an overdose. I've never heard of anybody dying from an overdose.
I guess by definition, yes, you took too much. That was an overdose. But that overdose does not have the consequences when you drink way too much alcohol, or, when you do other things that don't give you the same reactions. The most that happened to her is she just was in the bed for 4 hours. Whereas anything else, you might go out, get a DUI, other things, like I said, liver, other things will.
Yeah, and technically, let's look at some other things. If you vomit while drinking alcohol, you've overdosed, right? That's your body's way of saying, "Hey, look, I've got a lot of poison in here. I got to get it out."
Right, too much.
If you drink over the limit, that would be an overdose. What if you have a hangover?
Right.
That's an overdose too, right?
Yeah, that's the reaction you too much.
And I find it interesting how people draw these lines in the sand.
Right. And that's where I'm like, how can you say nothing about alcohol, but you're hell-bent against this? You either need to compare it or dismiss it. Like, you can't, like you just said, you can't say, oh, well, this is killing people. And I'm like, there is nobody that has died from this. Whereas here, how many millions of people have died because they've had too much to drink, or they decided to do something because of drinking.
Exactly. Now, let's go through a couple of his other positions. He says that the products contain 3 to 4 times the THC content found in marijuana purchased from a drug dealer. What do you say to that?
I mean, again, depending on which cannabinoid we're talking about, again, it depends on the different cannabinoids do different things. So yeah, you're going to see a gummy that says 50 milligrams. Something else might say 1,000 milligrams. Something else might say 10,000 milligrams. But again, depending on what the actual mixture is, like we just said, Delta 8 was the baby step. So if you have something that they say it's 10,000 milligrams, if it's mostly Delta 8 with a little bit of that THCP, that's not the same thing compared to something like we said, if it's just completely THCP, that's probably more of a realistic milligram, and it's going to say 8 milligram or 10 milligram.
So if I'm hearing you correctly, this is a valid criticism, but it's a misunderstood idea here, because although the dosage may be higher, the psychoactive effects are lower. Did I hear you correctly?
No, the psychoactive can be comparable, but like I said, depending on what the actual ingredients are. And then 2, every person's different. So that's the other big variable that people have to remember. It's not a one size fit all. Somebody might take one gummy and just need like a quarter of that. And then I have another person that might need 5 of these gummies. So even though the doses are going to be the same, the way your body processes it and metabolizes it, it's going to depend on how much of a dose that you need.
Is the dose regulated here in Texas?
No, I feel like anybody can put whatever milligram they want on there.
Is the dose regulated in Las Vegas?
I mean, yeah, they have it to where it can only be a certain whatever however they do their milligrams.
Let's go on to the next topic. This is a big topic. It states that the stores are targeting thousands of Texas children. Now, you have a store. You have a regulation as to whether or not children can buy.
I mean, I don't know what store is selling to. When we say children, he makes it sound like we're selling to 5-year-olds. I've never sold anything to anybody who looks like they're under 21. So, I mean, I know there might be stores that they don't bother checking the ID if they look close enough, but I don't know when he's saying children, that sounds like a parent issue. Because I have heard stories where kids are rushed to the hospital, and when we say kids now, we're talking about children as in babies, toddlers, maybe middle schoolers, because they accidentally got a hold of something that was at home that was left out. So that's not us selling to them. That is somebody who was irresponsible, left it out, and their kid got a hold of it. So when I talk about a minor, I'm talking about somebody that might be 20 that's trying to get in here and get something because they're just under the age limit. And he makes it sound like we're selling to all these children that can't even reach the counter. I don't really know what he's saying when he's like, you're selling to children. I'm like, I'm pretty sure no store has ever sold to children.
New card?
Yeah. I think it's a, like, I don't know if it's an unwritten rule, but if you look like you're under 30, you're supposed to carry your ID with you. I mean, when you go to a bar, if you don't look like you're over 30, they're going to card you. So it should be the same policy everywhere around. Again,
Right.
There might be some stores that don't, if they look like they're over 21.
But as it stands now, there's no regulation that requires all these other THC products to card before you sell?
No, everything needs to be carded.
Is there a Texas state law that requires that?
Yeah, that's why I don't understand when he's like, we're selling to children. I'm like, you have to be 21 and up to buy any tobacco or nicotine or THC product. So there are some stores at 21 and up. It doesn't matter, like, if we sell other things you can buy, because if you're 18 and up, you can buy glass or grinders or something else because it doesn't contain those things. But a lot of stores are 21. I don't want to deal with the whole, oh, well, if 2 friends come in here, you're 21, but you're 18, I can sell to you, but I can't sell to you. That's where they're like, you know what, just 21 and up, I don't want to have to deal with deciphering who I can sell to and who I can't.
So there already is a regulation in place that requires all the stores to sell only to people that are 21 and up.
Right. They actually increased the age limit a few years ago. it was 18. So 18 years old, you could come in and buy THC, nicotine, tobacco. And they just recently, I want to say, I can't remember what year it was, but I want to say it was maybe 5 years ago that they raised it to 21 and up. So I can understand when it was 18, some of the 18-year-olds would go into a store and be able to buy it for their friends. And that may have been how that was getting distributed between high schoolers and, maybe even middle schoolers. But now that you're 21 and it's been like that for years, I don't see how high schoolers can be getting a hold of it unless, like you said, you have someone that you can ask to go in and buy it for them who is over 21. It's just like when you buy alcohol as a kid, you would ask your mom or uncle or someone, someone who's going to go get it for you. So,
Cool uncle.
Right. Same thing with this stuff. I'm selling it to people who are legally able to buy it. Once it walks out my door, I don't know what happens to it.
Oh, I mean, we went through this whole issue with the cigarette industry, with the tobacco industry, and they marketed to young children. There's no doubt. They created cartoons. You had Joe Camel. All these things were designed to get younger and younger children in. And truthfully, I mean, you're dealing with products that are strawberry bubblegum flavor, all these luxurious, flavors, tropical punch, in order, I guess, to hide the flavor of, the pot. People are arguing that the products are marketed to look like candy, and they're not childproof. They're not child safety with the products. What do you say about that?
I mean, there are a lot of companies that do that. I don't carry any of those products. I carry all the products that I have been tested. They have the QR code. They've been prepackaged. They're in the childproof tamper containers. I don't have something that might look like Airheads and it has the little balloon that a kid is going to recognize and it just says weed heads, Like my stuff is plain to a kid, but adults like those flavors too. So the fact that you're telling an adult that you can't have a strawberry flavored gummy because it's strawberry is kind of nuts, because now you're telling another adult that they can't have a certain flavor because it's for kids only.
Keep the government out of my mouth, right?
Yeah. I mean, this goes into all kinds of different other issues that are all politics, right? But government basically tells us what we can and can't do. And as an American, that's part of our privilege is don't tell me what I can do. Give me my options so I can pick for myself what I want to use or not use, or drink or not drink, smoke or not smoke. Now,
you said, and I want to make sure, all the products you sell have childproof containers. And for the people at home, that means, kind of like the pill bottle, but even the little Ziploc bags are impossible to open, right?
Yeah, there's some of them that I have to pinch, and you have to be coordinated enough to pinch it at the same time for it to open. You can't just open it like a Ziploc bag. Or a lot of the pill bottles, like you said, you have to push and turn. So if you have a bottle that you can just open, no, that's not a child proof. There's some of these things that I have that are even adult proof that some of my customers will have problems opening. They have to come back and ask me to help.
And all this is designed to keep accidental dosing, correct? From young toddlers, young children. But when you get to a certain age, I think 12 or 13, they're going to know how to operate those devices. What do you say about that?
Well, again, that goes back to, are you keeping it away from who's not supposed to be touching it? Are you putting it in a place where they don't know where it is? That's with anything else. Do you put your gun away where it's not loaded? Do you put your alcohol away where your kids can't just open and start drinking it? Do you put your prescriptions away that your kid just can't go into your cabinet and get it? That's the same issue. That's what I was saying. Once it leaves my door, that sounds like a parent issue that unless you're buying it for your kid and they're not supposed to be having it, your responsibility as a parent or an adult, even if you live in a house with anybody under 21, you need to be responsible enough to put it away where they don't know where it's at. They can't get to it.
Yeah, at some point, you're not the parent. Is that what you're saying? At some point, you're responsible for what you can do, and you're not supposed to be in the homes of all your customers making sure they do what they should be doing. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. I mean, that's just like everything else, though. You buy a prescription, you don't leave your pills out on the counter so your kid can just eat them like Tic Tac.
And you don't expect your doctor to follow you home to make sure that you're putting them away in the medicine cabinet where the children can't get to them, correct?
Right. Once you write the prescription.
Some point you're responsible, right?
Right. So the other thing is when you write a prescription, they issue you a certain dose for certain times of the day, 2 days, twice a day, 2 times a day. Same thing here. There is warning labels and everything. There's a dosage, a recommendation for a dosage. Again, everybody's different. If me and you take a different Tylenol, for example, he might prescribe me 1 pill. He might need to prescribe you 3 because of either the pain that we're going through or your tolerance or whatever it may be. It's the same thing. I'm going to tell you to take, take half of this one and wait 3 hours. Don't wait 20 minutes. See how that goes. If half didn't do anything, okay, now let's up the dosage. Let's do 1 full one, wait 2 hours, see how that goes. Okay, now let's do a different brand because whatever this mixture, this didn't work. So let's try this one.
Now, there is no regulation in place that requires these to be sold in childproof containers?
I mean, as far as I knew, we were supposed to have already been doing that. I was looking at, after he vetoed, I was looking at the proclamation that he wants to do because he called that special meeting for them to regulate it. We're already doing most of that stuff.
You're doing it, but are you doing it because you feel like you should be, you're self-imposing these regulations, or is it a law? Because it seems to me with a lot of these complaints, maybe there isn't some of these laws. Maybe you're just doing it, just because you're a good citizen, you're a good community member. You feel like this is the way it should be regulated. I'm sure you don't want to see 12-year-olds smoking pot because you've read the articles about how it could cognitively affect their development.
Right. I mean, part of it is, yes, we're a good citizen. We want to make sure we're carrying quality things. I don't like to carry things under a certain bar because it's either not effective or the quality of the product itself isn't good. But I mean, as far as I knew, a lot of the things were the law. I think where we dropped the ball was it wasn't ever enforced and they kind of just let it spread like wildfire. Because when I look at some of the things that we were supposed to do, we're not supposed to sell to minors, which is a law. We are not supposed to be within like 1,000 feet of a school. We're 3,000 feet away from the nearest school. I knew this 10 years ago. So when somebody says, oh, I didn't know, I'm like, well, either you didn't bother looking at it or you just didn't care that you were going to be right across the street. Because there's a lot of shops that did open right across the street from high schools, especially because those are the ones that they're probably trying to entice, like how he was saying, we're catering to kids. Having it not right across the street from a school would be better. So you should be, further down the street. They don't see you every day when they walk into school. The other things that a lot of my companies do, they're supposed to be tested with the QR codes on there. So yeah, half this stuff was a law, but I think we just didn't have anybody checking on us all the time to make sure it was actually being enforced.
And this one is an interesting issue. This is one of my most interesting issues. One day, somebody came into my office and they said they represented a store like yours. And they pulled out a little glass vial and they put it on my desk. And there it was, this marijuana bud in a glass vial. And I said, what are you doing with that? Like, are you going to get me in trouble? He goes, no, that's legal.
Yeah.
I go, it's legal. It looks exactly like the illegal. He goes, yeah.
Yep.
I go, how the hell are they going to, what are the police going to do?
Right.
And that's one big argument is that it is visually impossible to distinguish the two of them. That's correct, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right. There's no magic person out there that can hold it, that can smell it, that can lick it, that can say, this is one, this is the other, correct?
Right.
There's no drug dog out there that's been trained.
Smells the same, burns the same.
And it even gets worse because police field kids cannot distinguish Delta 8 from Delta 9 THC. The lab testing is required to determine legality. So if you got a person walking around with, a quarter bag, you're going to go spend how many hundreds of dollars to arrest them? Then the testing, for example, the gas chromatography, me in scientific words. I know. These methods, they artificially convert the THCA to Delta 9. Because I think at some point they're using heat, and so they're creating the actual THC that's banned, even though it's not in it in the product.
Right.
And
So once you light it, it becomes illegal.
consumers buying legal products, because of these issues with testing, they can get in trouble.
Right.
Okay. Let's talk about what they want to do, right? So they vetoed this, and now they're in special session. But what do they want to accomplish?
Yeah, when I was looking at what Abbott was proposing, like I said, most of that was stuff that we already did. So no selling to minors. You can't be within so many feet of a school. It has to be tested, prepackaged. The labels with warnings, ingredients, the content, the THC content with the barcode or like a QR code. The other things that they might want to put on there, because again, he kicked it to them and was like, figure it out. Like, it's fine now. Figure out how you want to regulate it. So the things that I saw on there that we might be adding or tweaking or fixing, he wants to restrict access to anybody 21 and under. So I don't know if that means maybe gas stations can't sell it anymore. Because if you go to a gas station, they have those off to the side too. And you don't have to be 21 to go in there. So to me, that means the place itself cannot have any minors be able to walk in the door. So I'm thinking he's going to restrict it to just certain stores that are allowed to carry it, which makes sense. Because like you said, if a minor, 18, 19, 20, walks in and they don't ID them, they automatically will get it anyway. The other thing, he said that he wants to post warnings all over the store. He wants us to only sell like alcohol sales, so no selling on Sunday. And we're only going to be able to sell Monday through Saturday, maybe 10 to 9, like regular store hours. I think another thing I saw in there was the amount bought will be restricted. So I don't know how they're really going to do that, because if you're doing it off of a milligram or if you're doing it off of ounces or pounds or something, I don't know how he's going to want us to do that. That's something, again, that they have to figure out. No consumption on the premises. So some of the stores that do like sample nights or testing and stuff like that, we won't be able to do that anymore. He wants to maybe increase taxes to fund like the oversight of the enforcement. So the big thing I saw on there was taxing for enforcement, which is fine. A lot of my customers were like, don't take it away, tax it, so you can actually check and make sure these stores are carrying what they're supposed to be carrying or do what they're supposed to be doing or not doing. So like I said, most of the stuff that I saw on there was, again, stuff that we've already been doing because, again, it was the law. We just didn't have anybody walking around and actually checking COAs or checking that they're in certain containers. So I think now if he does that, it should be fine.
Yeah, let's go through these real quick. And I don't think you're opposed to any, if all, and you might already be doing most of them. Now, he proposed, now when we're talking about a special session, the governor can give a framework. The governor can call people for special sessions on the topics that he wants. But he doesn't get to make the law. He's letting these people do it, but he gives them some guidelines.
Right.
And these are the guidelines that I found. One, he make age and access restriction, making selling THC products to minors under 21 a crime. You don't sell to 21.
It's all right. Yeah.
Yeah, but it would make it a crime. I don't know if it does it. Prohibit sales near schools, churches, parks, and playgrounds. That's something you're not opposed to, right?
Right, because I'm already outside of the limit that I'm supposed to be, so that wouldn't affect me.
Well, require permits for retailers with strict penalties for non-compliance. You're not opposed to that?
Right, we have the licenses.
And it will eliminate some of your competition that are a little more shady, right?
That was the problem we were having when a lot of these stores opened up maybe 2 years ago. That's why we didn't do, I call it dispensary style, because a lot of the stores have just open jars full of flour, all the flour everywhere. So right there, me and my husband were talking, I was like, they're going to have a problem with that in 2 or 3 years, because that just broke half the rules I just said. It's, who knows if it's been tested? There's no QR code. Half of them are just handwritten, whatever the strain is. Here's a baggie of a handwritten whatever it is. It's not pre-sealed. like a food safe issue. That's a tampering issue, because once it gets to the store, who knows? The customer doesn't know that nothing's been done to it, unless you just trust that person. I mean, being a store, you should be able to be trusted. But I mean, again, I can't speak for all the stores. I don't know what some of these stores were doing to whatever they were selling. One of my vendors actually told me he goes, to all the stores just to make sure you're restocked on whatever you need to restock on. He said that store owner said that he has a friend that opened up, when we say a shack, just hole in the wall place, he goes, all the red flags. But he said he literally picks it from his friend's, quote, farm backyard and puts it in a jar. So I was like, oh, what are you doing?
And talking about the product safety and testing, he wants testing required at every phase of production and manufacturing facilities subject to permitting and food safety rules, child-resistant, tamper-evident, resealable packaging. Products cannot be made or marketed attractively to children. You're not opposed to any of this.
Right. That's, again, stuff we were already doing, at least with the companies that we carry. The companies we carry have gone through all the hoops and all the regulations that we're supposed to go through for them to be on a shelf. So, no, I don't have any problem with that, because that's something that you should have already been doing.
And as far as labeling and transparency, he wants a Surgeon General style warning. He wants clear disclosure of all the ingredients and THC content, scannable QR codes, which what you were talking about, linking to test results,
right,
and fraudulent lab results become felony offenses. I mean, this all seems like good stuff to me.
Right. Or like how he was saying in that one interview that, Dan Patrick was holding up a bag of, I don't remember if it was Rice Krispie treat or whatever it was, but it was Hometown Hero. And I was like, that's the wrong bull to mess with, because they're one of the most legit companies. They have a team of lawyers that specifically fight the issues that we're having to keep it on the shelf. And when he was in the interview, he was like, do you want to eat a whole bag of this and see if you're here tomorrow? This is killing people. You don't know what's in this. And I was like,
I wish somebody would have taken him up on that. Hey, man, give me some Funyuns.
Yeah. So some people,
awesome, bro.
Yeah. Some people are like, yeah, I want to eat a whole bag. But if you look at the back of the bag, you don't eat a whole bag. A whole bag is not a portion size. One might be a portion size, half of one. I don't remember which bag he was holding up, but I know that company has a product that is specifically already pre-portioned. It's already pre-individually sealed, cut up pieces. So unless you decide to open up all those pieces, again, if you decide to eat a whole brownie, if you decide to eat a whole cookie, and we told you to have a 16th of it, that's a you thing. That was what you decided to do against, what I said. And
he wants sales restrictions. And this exactly is what you were talking about earlier, falling in line with alcohol restrictions, which, go back to the blue laws. You just can't get around these. We used to not be able to sell alcohol, period, on Sundays, right, even in a restaurant. But now you're allowed to, as long as you get food.
Right.
So sales limited at 10 a.m., 9 p.m., prohibited on Sundays. Ban public consumption in open containers in vehicles. I don't know. I guess, you're not allowed to smoke it.
I mean, I tell people, think of it like open container. You're not supposed to be driving around with an open bottle in your car. So treat it the same way. Don't have it in the middle console just sitting there.
Don't be smoking a joint while you're driving the car.
Right. Don't be smoking and driving. So that's what I tell people. Just because it's illegal doesn't mean you can be stupid with it.
So if you're rolling down the street, don't smoke the endo and don't sip on the gin and juice. Right. All of that is bad.
Keep it at home.
Yeah. I've heard a song about that, but I don't know. It was a long time ago.
It sounds familiar.
That was cool. All right. You don't have a problem with any of these restrictions, any of these regulations.
No. The only thing I think I was kind of not even concerned, I just don't know how he wants to do it, is restricting how much somebody can buy at one time or per day. So, I mean, again, everybody's tolerance is different. I don't know how they're going to put that into play, if that's even something that they're going to do. Because if you need 1,000 milligrams, and if they say you can only buy 500 milligrams a day, now what is that person going to do that needs 1,000 milligrams? So I really don't know how they're going to deal with that portion, but everything else that I saw seemed totally fine.
there are some legal issues that are going on here. And, if the bill would have been passed, it would have been challenged on constitutionality grounds. And in fact, the hemp industry was gearing up to do that, right?
Yeah.
And there's a coalition of the hemp people, businesses that have gathered together in order to, the Texas Hemp Business Council, which is they want all this. Their policy position is in favor of this, but they don't like that particular bill because banning everything, as Governor Abbott said, he found that it might lead to problems with the 2018 bill, which was the Arkansas case. And so there were some legality questions about that and some federal preemption arguments about the 2018 bill. So when they go back to and they recreate these laws, hopefully they're going to have a law that works for the whole businesses and the industries.
Right. For the people, because I was very surprised he vetoed, and it was 50-50 for me, but he actually listened to the people this time because he got tens of thousands of letters, handwritten letters saying, do not do this. This is why I am completely against you banning this. And then that doesn't even include the online petition that started at 100,000 signatures. We went to 102. They bumped it up to 150. It surpassed 150. So millions of people use this, again, for recreational, but medicinal. So a lot of veterans, for example, were getting really mad because you're taking away my medicine that I fought for the freedom to choose this option, and you're going to try to take it away from me.
Yeah, it's interesting that you say fought for the freedom because the veterans are very much against this ban. In fact, the Texas VFW, which is the Veterans of Foreign Wars, the senior commander came out and testified against the ban. And here's the issue. Medical marijuana is available, but it's very expensive. For example, the cost barriers for medical marijuana are $600 in doctor visits to qualify. The monthly medication costs can be $500 to $800. There's limited geographic access to dispensaries, and there's complicated prescription requirements. And so, for example, you have a man like Wesley Barn, who is a Gulf War veteran, who used to spend $600 to $800 a month on medical marijuana, now spends $40 for the equivalent hemp products.
Right.
Do you have a lot of veteran customers?
Yeah. That's the people who were all pissed off when they walked in here and they're like, I can't believe. And again, they were more for just regulate it, just tax it, don't take it away. Because again, this is what they use for their medicine, majority of my customers. But I mean, Hometown Hero is veteran owned and operated, it's not, everybody is not ever going to be on the same page with every issue. You're going to have split parties. But I think the main thing that our people were like, we'll leave it alone if it doesn't affect you. Why do we have a problem with it? It's not like if you're drinking and driving, you can affect multiple people if you get into an accident. You smoke too much, you're just hindered for a few hours yourself.
Have you, as a hemp business owner, ever faced any legal issues? Police giving you a hard time?
No, I always hear about different stores in different parts of the city that might be raided, but I also think they're also doing things that they're not supposed to be doing. Because I've never had any issue. I've never even had an inkling of anxiety. What if they come in here? I'm like, if they come in here, all my companies are, again, tested, COAs, pre-sealed. I'm not just handing stuff out in a baggie.
And what outcome are you hoping from the special session? What compromises would you be willing to accept?
I mean, again, just really, they need to just enforce what they've already told us we should be doing. That's the only big problem that I see, is that they're not even checking to make sure these stores have been tested and they're pre-sealed and pre-packaged. Like that one store that I said that store owner, his friend's just throwing it in a jar. So that's where I'm like, no, all my companies have gone through all the steps that we needed to do to get on the shelf. And he's completely skipping the big middle step that we're supposed to be skipping. So I think I should just be able to have a binder with all the COAs, with all the different brands that I carry. And if, let's say, we can tack it on to TABC when they come do their checks, they should say, okay, let me see your binder with your COAs. Where is this one? Oh, it's right here. Where is this one? Oh, it's right here. So they can look at it. And I think that's all that we really need to do. If they walk in and they just see stuff that's not prepackaged right there, that's already either grounds for take it out, or you need to jump on board, or you abandon ship.
What message would you want to convey to the legislators who still may be undecided on how to regulate your industry?
I mean, I would say look at it as the big picture and really just enforce the laws that, again, I've already known that have been in place. Just enforce it. If you let a store open up and they're doing something that they're not supposed to be doing, but they don't get caught or they don't get shut down, next store is going to open, next store is going to open. We're going to have a flooded city of half the stores shouldn't even be in business because they're not even doing the stuff that you said we needed to do. So again, I would say the easiest way to do this is tack it on to TABC, because they do come in and they'll make sure that you're IDing. So while they're there, just look at what that person has, because that should be a quick, okay, here are all your COAs. Here's all your stuff. Okay, you guys are good. Versus when you walk in, you should be able to tell immediately if somebody isn't doing something they're supposed to.
Now, for sure, though, just to tack on a little bit of that, you're talking $250 million in tax revenue that could be lost.
Mm-hmm.
And tens of thousands of jobs that could be lost. If they can get a compromise, both sides can win. The children can be protected, people can get their medicine, and the money, the economic activity generated will actually create a tax base as opposed to go into the black market dealers and the cartel.
Yeah. I mean, I know when we were looking at the ban, some of the things that we said we don't want to happen is we don't want to hand anything over to cartels. We want to build businesses. We want to create jobs. So if he would have banned it, that would have been totally opposite of what we're trying to do. So my thing that I have is some stores have opened up that should not be open in the first place, that they're just trying to get in and sell as much as they can before the government shuts them down. So those are the people that I'm like, again, if you're just checking on people, they wouldn't have even been there in the first place. But those are the people that I have an issue with, because again, they're not testing and going through the steps that we've gone through. So those are the people that I'm like, no, you either need to jump on board and do the stuff that the government said we're supposed to do, or you don't get to operate a business. So those are businesses that aren't legit businesses to begin with. So that's something that's almost borderline to me, not black market, but again, they're doing things they're not even supposed to be doing. So that's where I'm like, those guys probably shouldn't even be in business in the first place. They're not doing everything that I've done to make sure that we're carrying stuff that's like good quality products or tested products, much less.
Jackie, I really appreciate you talking to me. First off, if anybody is in San Antonio, Texas, and wants to go visit a high-quality place, ask for Jackie at Mellow Monkey. Show them the shirt. What? Yeah, Mellow Monkey. Ask for Jackie. Mention this podcast and you'll get 0.7% discount. Hey, everyone. I really appreciate you coming in and tuning in, listening to Jackie and I discuss these legal issues. At Hold My Briefcase, we like to take complex legal issues and give them to you in a way that you can understand so that you can make informed decisions. Until next time, this is Colby, and thank you very much.